Hey guys, there's a lot that I want to say about this topic today, so I'm just gonna dive right in. I'm super excited. Okay, so if you have grown up in the church, or if you've grown up watching VeggieTales, or if you're a parent and you read the children's story Bibles to your kids, this story is almost always in those story Bibles, and I just can clearly remember the VeggieTales movie of this, the fiery furnace story. But there's so much in reading the book of Daniel that there's so much more to it that I just really want to talk about. I've been reading through the book of Daniel and I love it. It's so good. I highly recommend reading it. It is an apocalyptic book, so the literature in the book is apocalyptic literature, which basically means that it's talking about the end times and the day of the Lord, or the day of Yahweh, as the Israelites called it back then. So, to give some context, Israel, when they had their kings as a united nation, which was Saul, David, and then Solomon. Those were the three kings of the united kingdom of Israel. After that, after Solomon's reign, they split, and Israel was made up of the 12 tribes of Jacob. Jacob is Abraham's grandson. The 12 tribes of Jacob. So when they split, it became the northern kingdom, which was known as Israel, and which was 10 tribes. And then the southern kingdom, which was known as Judah, which was Benjamin and Judah. So after that divide, there was many kings and lots of conflict, lots of sin. And in, I don't remember, 580 something BC, Babylonian took over Jerusalem, and then there's the Babylonian exile. So this is where the story of Daniel begins. The Babylonians took the Israelites that were living in the southern kingdom, so the Judeans, and took them to Babylon to live and to serve them. So the beginning of the book of Daniel starts with King Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon, taking some strong, some knowledgeable, talented young men to serve for him. 3 of those men were, their Hebrew names were Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. However, Nebuchadnezzar gave them Babylonian names, which were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that's what we know them by in this story. Or if you watch the VeggieTales, Shadrach and Benny. So, anyways, so now, some things have gone on. The first chapter has a lot of good material in it, but I'm going to start in chapter 3. So, in chapter 3, King Nebuchadnezzar makes an image of gold, which is about 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide. So huge, 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 huge. And he gave a decree that whenever music played, you must bow down and worship the statue. So, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were men of God. They were young men of God. They were very strong in their faith. And so, they were not willing to bow down and to worship this idol because they followed the Torah, made up of the 10 Commandments were the law that they followed, the Torah. And so the first one was, you shall worship no other gods except for me. And the second one was to not have any idols. So that would be breaking the first 2 commandments, and that was against what they were for, against what God had commanded them, and that would be breaking their covenant with the Lord. So they didn't do it. However, if people did not worship that image, they were going to be thrown into a fiery furnace. And this is like serious stuff. They would be thrown into this huge furnace of fire and be burned to death, which that's excruciating pain. Terrible. So they didn't do it. They stood firm. And what I want to focus in today is when Nebuchadnezzar confronted them and kind of gave them a second chance to redeem themselves and say, oh, we're just kidding, we're going to worship. So he summoned them, and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I'm starting in verse 16, chapter 3, replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. So, I just love this verse, especially the part when they say, even if they have full confidence that God can save them. God is powerful. They know God is powerful. He parted the Red Sea of their ancestors. They know that he is powerful. But they have such faith that even if the Lord doesn't save them from that furnace, and even if they burn to death because of their faith in the Lord, they're not going to do it. And that is so amazing, because that's a truth that we need today in this world, is that even if God doesn't deliver us from this pain and this persecution that we go through, we cannot live a life that is compromising. We have to live an uncompromising life, saying we do not want what the world has, and we will not worship the idols of the world, because that is what this culture is pushing us towards. They're pushing us towards these idols. They're pushing us to say and do these things and to worship these things that the world is, as in ourselves, our own hearts, other people. But we have to stand firm and live an uncompromising life, that no matter what happens to me, it doesn't matter what happens to me, because I know that my God is the only God, that my God is the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the only God, the only Creator, the one true God. And that's what they display in this text, is that they are not willing to live a compromising life, which that is something that we should kind of like use as a model for our own life. Okay, moving on. I know this is a little long, but this is just has so much in it that I don't want to just like skim past all the good details of this. So, King Nebuchadnezzar was furious, and he heated up the furnace 7 times hotter than usual. 7 times hotter than usual. And he was so urgent. It says in verse 22, the king's command was so urgent and the furnace so hot that the flames of the fire killed the soldiers who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Like, it was that hot that the soldiers who had to throw them in died because it was so hot. And that's like something we can't even really imagine. Immediately after, King Nebuchadnezzar notices that he sees 4 men walking around the furnace, and he was like, wait, wasn't there only 3? And there was 4, and he said the 4th looked like a son of the gods. And some people think that this is a pre-incarnate Christ. I don't know for sure. I would like to look into it more, but I think that's kind of what it is assumed, that it is Jesus walking around with them. And that's what I've always thought, but don't take me at my word for it. That's just a thought that I have. I don't know. And what I've heard. Anyways, so he calls them, come out of the fire. He says, servants of the Most High God. He's starting to recognize that God is the God. And they come out of the fire, and their clothes are not burned. Their hair is not burned. They don't even smell like smoke. And that is only God. That is truly only God's power. And that changed Nebuchadnezzar. He recognized their God, and he sent out a decree that if anyone has anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, then they will be cut into pieces and their house will be turned into rubble, because no other God can save in this way. And it says later in the book he didn't commit himself to God until later, but his heart was changed and his heart posture was changed, and he promoted them. So this is just such an amazing story that's not a myth and it's not fake. Like, this really happened. These were real men. King Nebuchadnezzar was real. This was a real story. And so I just want to encourage you guys, do not live a compromising life, because God has the power to save and he has the power to deliver you from anything. But something I've been learning recently is that God is better than that comfort, and he is better than the blessings in this life. And even if we're not saved, and either way we will be saved, because even if we do end up being a martyr for the faith, we get to be with the Lord, and that's even better than anything this earth has to offer. So I just want to give you this encouragement that do not compromise your life. Do not live a compromising life that where you're just going to be willing to bow down to these idols and to worship things that are nothing compared to the Lord. So, anyways, I just love this story so much, and it has so much power. I would encourage you to read the entire chapter for yourself, actually the entire book of Daniel, because chapters 1 and 2 give great context for the story of the fiery furnace. So I'd really encourage you guys to read those for yourselves and to read the story. This was pretty long, but I did not want to skip over any of these details because it's just so important and so important for us. Anyways, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you for listening. I appreciate you all, and I will see you for next week's video. Bye!